On this episode of China Uncensored, final round, fight! Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. Xi Jinping is in Godfather mode. Remember at the end of Godfather when Al Pacino's character is at his child's baptism and he swears to renounce evil while simultaneously orchestrating several high-power hits against his rivals? That's basically what Chinese leader Xi Jinping is doing. So Xi Jinping is trying to give off this saintly image by tackling corruption and making reforms, while behind the scenes what he's really doing is taking out all the other jerks that get in his way. And this is the big guy, Zhou Yongkang, former head of the Political and Legislative Affairs Committee and retired Politburo Standing Committee member. If you need some background on him, please check out my episode Casualties Pile Up in China's Internal Political War. According to the South China Morning Post and also Reuters, Zhou is under house arrest. Other overseas Chinese media say he's facing shuanggui. That's the ultra-shady internal disciplinary system of the Communist Party. It exists outside the realm of the government and law, and rather than investigating an official for the sake of justice, it's more of a behind-the-scenes way of determining how to deal with that official so the party can claim another victory in the eyes of the public. So, what's the big deal if Zhou is being investigated? This has never happened before. After the Cultural Revolution, there was an unwritten rule that top officials wouldn't investigate each other. They were off limits, especially after they've retired, if Zhou is really in detention. This is the most significant event in recent Chinese political history. A trial may not be far off. So what's Xi's problem with this guy anyway? I mean, aren't they both a part of the same creepy authoritarian club? Well, there are some reports that Zhou did try to have Xi killed in a coup attempt, twice. Xi has been moving against this guy for months. Earlier this year, several bigwigs in China's state-run oil industry with ties to Zhou were placed under investigation. Then in October, two more senior executives of state-run companies with ties to Zhou were placed under shuanggui. The other thing about this shuanggui is that officials have been tortured to death by other officials who were meant to be investigating them. That's what happened to party member and chief engineer for a state-owned firm, Yu Qiyi, this April. But things have gotten really bad for Zhou after the third plenum. That was November's policy-making meeting of top leaders. You remember when Xi Jinping announced they would end the labor camp system. As far as reform goes, that's pretty meaningless because China still has plenty of mental hospitals, drug rehab facilities, and brainwashing centers to detain people in. But guess who greatly expanded the labor camp system? Zhou Yongkang. By promising to dismantle the labor camp system, Xi Jinping manages to look great whilst giving Zhou a slap in the face in the process. Whatever clout Zhou might have had left with China's police and security forces as the former PLAC head is probably also disappearing fast after Xi announced the creation of the State Security Committee at the end of the plenum. This new committee will take over control over China's police and security forces, and guess who the new head is? Xi Jinping. So if Xi does decide to put Zhou through the same kind of phony transparency they did with Bo Xilai in his trial, what might Zhou be charged with? Well, some think he had his first wife murdered, people like his son. With his wife out of the way, he was able to marry a niece of then-Chinese leader Jiang Zemin, and suddenly he went from the provincial party chief of Sichuan to being hand-selected by Jiang as the head of the Ministry of Public Security, even though he had no experience with police work. Then, right before he retired, Jiang upped the number of positions in the Politburo Standing Committee, the highest echelon of power, from 7 to 9. And in 2007, Jiang made sure it was Zhou that got one of those extra seats and the role as the head of the PLAC. No one has ever made it into top leadership by working for the security forces. Ever. Shady. And on top of that, he made his fortune from China's state-run oil monopoly, meaning a corruption charge could be for billions of yuan. So we have murder, corruption, and oh yeah, possible assassination attempts. Could there be something else? Remember, with Bo's trial, the party never officially linked him to Zhou and any of the alleged coup attempts. They just stuck him with the good old corruption and abuse of power. So Wang Lijun leads to Bo Xilai, who leads to Zhou Yongkang. Who's next? And what's really tying them all together? For now, there's been no official confirmation of Zhou's house arrest or shuanggui, but there's been no denial either. So I'm guessing they're still setting the stage for how they want this to play out for the public. So now we wait. If Xi Jinping does manage to take down his political opponents one by one, what does that mean for the future of China? Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.